Hangman Page might have finally started figuring out who he is without the world title. And then Swerve Strickland came back. So here's the actual question I can't stop thinking about. Is Hangman actually becoming a different person right now? Or was he just removed from the one thing that always brought out his worst instincts? And now that thing is walking back through the curtain. Quick bit of context because it matters for where this goes. Swerve and Hangman's whole rivalry was never about position on the card or who's the bigger star. It was about proving who's better, who's tougher. That's basically what that entire year of rivalry came down to underneath all the violence. And Swerve won that argument. Not just the last match. He found the ugliest version of Hangman there was and dragged it out into the open. And it wasn't pretty. People still bring up who Hangman became by the end of that feud and not fondly. So here's where he actually is right now. Texas Deathmatch against MJF back in March. Stipulation attached. Lose and can never challenge for the world title again. He lost. That door's closed permanently. For a guy whose entire deal has been chasing that exact thing, that's not just a loss. That's losing the plot of his own story. He's disappeared for 4 months, came back, and basically said the quiet part out loud. He didn't know who he was without that chase anymore, but he was going to find out. And if you had told me 3 months ago how he'd actually answer that, I would have laughed. I made a video about this exact topic asking what's next for Hangman Page. In it, I said the Continental Championship because he has unfinished business with Moxley. Or if you said something about the Trios Championship, I would have guessed something like he gets the band back together with the Young Bucks, does the whole Elite reunion. That's the obvious version. That's the version that doesn't require anyone to actually think about it. Instead, why the hell is Hangman Page, one of this company's biggest single stars, suddenly a trios champion, with Brody King and Bandido calling themselves the good, the bad, and the ugly, which, credit where it's due, is a great name. That is an absurd trio on paper. Different guys, different styles, different personalities, zero shared history with Hangman going in, and somehow it just works. Brody's the dangerous outsider who's never really needed the spotlight to matter. Bandido's pure joy. Wrestles like wrestling itself is the whole point. Neither one of them is trying to prove he's better than Hangman. That might be the entire reason this works. For the first time in a long time, he's standing next to people who aren't measuring themselves against him. If AEW just wanted to give him something to fill the time before moving back to the main event eventually, this isn't the move you make. You give him something familiar, the Bucks, the Elite, something with history behind it. Instead, they gave him the least obvious partners available. 3 guys with no reason to be a team, choosing to be one anyways. So that's where he is when Swerve walks back in. And it's not a coincidence that it's specifically him out of everyone Hangman has ever fought. Swerve's the one who knows exactly which button to press. He's the one who found Hangman's insecurity years ago and turned it into an obsession. Not you're a bad wrestler. You don't actually matter as much as you do. That's the actual wound. Swerve's the only person who's already proven he knows exactly where it is. So when he shows up right as Hangman's built the exact opposite of that old identity, a team instead of a solo climb, people instead of a rivalry, that's not just an old opponent coming back. That's the guy capable of finding out if the new version is real. And I don't think the interesting question here is whether Hangman can beat Swerve. They fought before, they'll fight again. That's not it. Because Swerve's already needled him, told him he's got nothing to show for whatever he's been doing since Revolution. If you know their history, you know exactly what that line is built to do. If Hangman spends the next few weeks trying to prove that wrong the old way, trying to be the biggest guy in the room again, that tells you the growth wasn't finished. If he can just let this be what it actually is, his team defending something they've built together, nothing more dramatic than that, even with Swerve standing right there, daring him to make it personal, I think that's a real answer to the question he asked in July. Zoom out for a second, because there's something bigger happening here too. The Trios division felt like an afterthought for a while now. titles change hands and it never feels like the center of anything. Suddenly, it's got two of AEW's biggest stars running through it. And now the New Day somewhere in the middle of it as well. I don't know where exactly that goes. I don't know if there's a bigger match waiting at Wembley. I don't know how New Day factors into it specifically. That's speculation, and I'm leaving it as speculation. But it feels like AEW stumbled into something smart here, almost by accident. A division nobody was talking about becoming the place where one of the better character stories in the company is actually playing out. And that's what makes Wembley the right place for this to land. Whatever it ends up looking like, not because it's the biggest show of the year, every story gets that pitch. It's because All In is the first real deadline on the actual question. Does Hangman let Swerve drag him backward? Or does he prove on the biggest stage he's got left that he's genuinely not that guy anymore? So here's where I land on all of it. Hangman couldn't chase the thing that used to define him anymore. Instead of that, ending his story, it might have started a better one. He found people who don't need him to be the best guy in the room. A version of success that isn't about being obsessively better than everyone else. And now, the person who found that obsession in him in the first place is standing across from him again, daring him to go back to being that guy. I don't know which version shows up. I don't think Hangman fully knows either. But that's why this was never really about who wins the match. It's Hangman versus the guy Swerve pulled out of him. And with that, that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've got some content planned for All In. So hopefully you guys can subscribe for that. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.